Welcome back to another episode of the Prosperity Playbook. Today, I have my friend Lacee Giggenbacher with me, and her company is actually called Mountain Witch. And I don't want that to scare you off because I've had people have a negative connotation around that term witch. And I want you to stay tuned so you can actually hear what this is actually about. So she's a therapist. She's an alchemist. Maybe shadow witch might be the right term, but I'm going to have her talk about her journey a little bit. Starting in therapy and looking for some alternative healings on her own personal journey. And then I'm going to share about an experience that I had with her because we tried to actually shoot this last week. And when she showed up here, like all of my computer stuff just decided not to function. So we ended up just talking for hours. And so I got to really experience what it is like to work with her. And so I'm going to share with her some of the things that have come up for me since then that I have not told her yet even. Cool. And I think this was just how it was meant to be. So I'm excited to share this with you. So Lacee, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Oh my goodness. What a beautiful place. Thank you for having me. This is such a cool place to be hanging out on a Monday.
Absolutely. It's a great way to end a Monday for me, I think. So, well, talk to me about your journey that kind of started with, because you're a kind of a classically trained counselor, psychologist, correct?
Yep. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor in the state of Montana. So I have a master's degree. I've been practicing, almost not quite 2 decades, but short of it.
Okay.
I started in that program so I could survive, I laugh about it, but it's so true. Where I've come from, the things I've experienced, I literally had to pay tens of thousands of dollars to learn how to do it a little differently.
Okay.
Right.
And so that was for your own just kind of mental health journey, correct? And you were like, hey, maybe I should learn some of this myself.
Well, I think I was drawn to helping families, right? But when you're in that position, if you don't have extra tools, if you don't know more than what I was taught, you're just going to keep repeating cycles.
Tools is such a good word for this because that's how I have always described counseling to people. I've gone to a couple different counselors at different times in my life, and tools is exactly what I feel like I come out of there with, just ways to handle things that come up. And I think going back to counseling periodically is a good thing because it just adds more tools to your toolbox.
Definitely tools. Definitely lovely to have a place to check in, right, on your journey. And for me, it was actually thank goodness my program they don't make you. They encourage you to get your own counseling strongly, hint.
I like it.
And thank goodness, because I met the most amazing, radiant human. She journeyed with me for a decade and a half. And without her and this healing attachment relationship, I would not be here. There's my whole story, I wouldn't be here. So therapy is this super potent place where we can rewire how we see the whole world, dependent on, the person that we're working with. It's so potent. And I've been through so much stuff, Renee, that for me at some stage, there were just more parts of me that needed attended. That the kind of approach that I was, in as a client, it just couldn't take me to all those places.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that clicked that you said to me last week was that you had been through plenty of counseling. You'd done all of the things you're supposed to do and check the boxes, and you still were not as healed as you wanted to be. There were other deeper parts that needed to be touched or needed to be explored. And so that was kind of your journey to find how to get there.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, it's I'm just the kind of person that, I don't know. I don't like closed doors and no's that much. I am a little punk rock.
I like that. I'm a little punk rock.
Yeah, you are. Yes, you are. I don't even know if it's deep down. You definitely have a beautiful voice. And, so when in all of my healing, emotional, spiritual, physical, when I get no's from traditional approaches, I'm seeking other places. And that's really just all that is for me.
I love that. And I think a lot of, especially high performers, that's how we are. We do not like to hear a no. We're going to let me show you how. You tell me no, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what happened for you. You couldn't figure, nobody else had the solution for you. So you're like, I'll find it myself.
And actually, like, I'll credit the counselor that I have worked with for so long. I just saw her and gave her a big hug this last weekend at the music festival. But she was like, I was like, hey, I don't know that we're doing much. And she was like, I've got a referral. This woman is a psychic and a counselor. Maybe this is what you're needing. So again, it's also like, how cool that my healer that had done so much work with me, that had journeyed with me through like literally some of the deepest, darkest like holes on earth, was the one that was like, yeah, like, let's get you a little bit more.
I like that. Well, talk to me about, kind of some of these buzzwords. Let's start there and kind of dispel some of these things. So, obviously we're talking about some alternative healing things, and that probably doesn't scare anybody off because I think we're all on an alternative healing journey. But let's talk about things like magic and spells and spell casting and things like that. So help me unpack some of those words and make them less scary.
Okay, so let's talk about magic first. Okay, so in my mind, the word magic, I spell it Magick. And what I'm referring to is an energetic it's so hard to know where to look. I'm refocusing.
You're good.
But I don't want to get lost in my own thoughts because I'm trying to talk to the people who were called to this space, right? So to me, magic is an energetic, somatic experience that I get inside my body as a result from paying attention energetically to things around me and things inside me. So like the earth, water, I'll stand in a creek and energetically things shift inside my body. And that is magic.
So it's like an energetic exchange.
It's an energetic exchange. Absolutely. Okay. And I think the piece in my world that makes it magic is my intention. So really, it's like I am going to be really intentional with how I exist inside myself and in the physical realm. And I'm going to meet each moment with intention. And I'm going to let the potency, the emotion, the sensuality, the experience run through me in a really active and alive way.
That makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that you told me last week was that I have let my brain, my head kind of like run my world for a long time. And one of the things I really appreciated about our conversation was that you didn't make me wrong for any of the things. You were like, by the way, that's not a bad thing. Your brain is your absolute superpower and it's done some really cool shit. But and no buts and and it's time for you to tap back into your body some more and to just notice how your body reacts around things. And so, for example, I had she basically was like, if you only use your brain, it's a recipe for burnout. You got to tap back in and balance back out the rest of your body. And so I've been trying to just like notice how my body reacts to these things this week. And I got this one email for an organization I'm a part of, and I immediately had this like physical reaction to it where I was like, ugh. And I was like, okay, I need to be done with that. And it's an organization that I love. I still will want to be a part of, but I need to not lead it anymore. It's a different group. And so I was like, okay, that's the next thing that needs to come off my plate. And I was like, oh, I wonder if this is what she means by listening to my body.
Exactly. Yay. Okay. What a beautiful example. Thank you for sharing that, because here is the truth. Sometimes we live in life cycles, in stories, our lives are hard. And so it is not always safe to emotionally and spiritually be in our physical body. So we detach.
Yep.
In some way, dissociate from it, right?
Yeah.
And what you and I are talking about is that intentional piece, that pretty magical piece where you listen to a somatic experience in your body. And instead of saying, oh, that's dangerous, I'm just going to not pay attention to it. You're like, oh, that's a message. I wonder what that message is saying, right?
Yeah. Yep.
To empower you to be in congruence with your brain, your body, and your soul, right? That life force that pretty much everybody on earth can agree is in a physical body.
Yeah. Well, and the balance thing really resonated with me because we've all heard this like life or work home balance, all of these things, live work balance. And I've always kind of thought that that was a little bit of a mythical creature, that like it is what it is. But this kind of balance made more sense to me, to like take, not all of my decisions need to be cerebral. They don't need to be necessarily based on logic. And I think a lot of times logic makes us feel lethargic, but feeling emotion is actually what gets action out of us. So being able to tap into that other part of me, I think is going to be a new superpower for me.
It is absolutely a new superpower for you, right?
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about, a little bit about what I'm hearing you say is letting your brain and that objective cognitive part of you do its job in the moment, and allowing that intuitive, there's a little bit of trust, a little bit of surrender, you know, in trusting ourselves and trusting, you know, our purpose, our path, right? It's like softening having to control everything, which is not real.
Right.
The gig's up, you know, but allowing all parts of you to guide your movement.
Yeah.
Right. And because in our brain and our cognition, we can get lost in ego super, super fast. And that is actually a cool segue into another term that we could talk about. Spell.
Okay.
This is a big one.
Let's talk about it.
I mean, I think when people hear about the word spell, they're thinking about like animal sacrifice, and I mean,
waving a magic wand and casting a spell on you.
And that's the extreme, obviously. But here's what spell is in my world. Spells are your thoughts. It is the messaging, the story, the potential outcomes that you're spending your energy and time going over.
Yeah. So the example that you and I talked about last week, I told you that for me, I used to be really klutzy, but that was like kind of my own story. I knew I was a klutz. I said I was a klutz. I always was running into things. I was covered in bruises. I had no idea where they came from. And then one day I just decided, like, I'm not going to be a klutz anymore. And I just said that out loud. And I told my family, nope, I'm not a klutz anymore. And it actually, I've talked about that on this podcast before, but it just became true. I just stopped being a klutz because that's where my thoughts were. And you were like, oh yeah, that was, you cast a spell. And I was like, I did?
Yes. Right.
So there's an example of what it really means.
I mean, in the clinical world, it's cognitive behavioral therapy. That's what we're talking about. And admittedly, I have been in the trauma world so long, and I am like a somatic first, feeling first, magic first kind of person. So I've been always kind of a hater of CBT. And now I'm like feeling like all of the teachers that I had that I was like, oh, totally dismissed some of their approaches. I'm going to send an email like 2 decades later, like, sorry, that was a blind spot. Because it's part of the puzzle. That's where your spells lie. If you are saying things repetitively, if you are creating outcomes and potential outcomes, and you're feeding those scenarios, like, that's spell casting. That is gathering with intention, energy, and emotion to affect your outcome. You're spell casting.
That makes so much sense. And it can be as simple, it sounds like to me, like your affirmations that you say in the morning is basically spell casting. But it could also work in a negative way, because another thing I said to you was I had this conversation with my coach around boundaries, and how she was like, Renee, you're always going to care more than everybody else does. And that felt really true for me at the time, but it immediately became part of like my verbiage and what I was like,
story.
And you were like, that's a spell too. You have to be a little bit careful about that. And you said something about plugging the things that plug into you. And that was a really good image for me around that way. If that's my story, people that care less than me are going to continue to plug into me because that's what feels like it fits for me.
It's a frequency.
Okay.
Right? In my mind, I understand it like a frequency. Okay. If you're walking into that relationship and you are saying in every person energetically that you're meeting, you're saying, I will always care more than you. And that's the frequency that your body is holding. You're going to have individuals where that plugs in to reinforce your reality.
Yeah.
You are projecting on every person you meet your truth to see if it fits or not.
Yeah. And I don't really want that to
No.
be a true thing. So
And it just isn't true, right? Like you are literally setting yourself up to not have relationships where you have the right to receive.
right. Exactly.
Or that receiving is inherent in that relationship.
And it's funny because that came up because that is one of the things that I've been working on. I'm not a good receiver. I'm not comfortable giving or receiving gifts. I love to give them. I love to push things out, but I'm not great at receiving compliments or praise or whatever, even physical gifts. And I don't know. I used to think it was because I felt undeserving. I don't think that's true anymore. I just think I don't know. Maybe it's just my story. Maybe I'm just telling myself that I'm not good at receiving those things. So that's definitely a piece. You know, I'm like, I'm not saying that anymore. I'm not saying that I'm going to care more than everybody else because I don't want that to be true.
It's not true. And what's cool about what you're saying is I know what your world's been like. You've been receiving lots of gifts.
I have been.
It's her birthday. It's been her birthday. She's shifting in the business group that we're doing, and everybody's like cheering and clapping, expressing our love and gratitude for all. Yeah, look at how uncomfortable she is. Right?
I'm trying to embrace it.
And what you're talking about is in my world, we all have this pathway around giving and receiving.
Yep.
And when we have stories, when we have experiences that kind of murk that or cloud that, and things get, again, off balanced, and maybe we give too much or we receive too little or vice versa, right? We take too much and don't give enough. Like in my world, that's affected by trauma, and most of the time relational trauma. And so it's like, how do you attend to all the spells, to all of the kind of, if you think of it, thinking of some other biz group people that I love in our group, like if you think of the architecture of how you've designed your reality and what your reality is based on, the truths of it, which is just attachment. That's all I'm talking about, right?
Okay.
How you see yourself, how you see the world, and how you see relationships. Those kind of the blueprints are your verbiages. They're your stories, the things you say about yourself, the things you say about other people, right? Like, I'm never enough.
Oof, that's a big one for a lot of people, I think.
There'll never be enough.
Right.
Feel that. Even just take a minute, Renee, and feel the energy of those words in your body.
Yeah.
They're heavier.
Yeah, they are heavy. And to me, like, enough means you've reached the end. And that's not really where we want to be.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's a cool distinction, right?
Yeah.
Like end of the story.
Right. I think
No.
the journey is more important than who you're becoming.
I love that. And that's what we're talking about, is being in your story with intention as often as you can so you can be a co-creator.
Presence.
And, right? Instead of getting crashed across the shore, which is what it felt like my whole life.
Got it. So you've talked about in your world a couple times. So let's talk about that a little bit. I wrote down finding our way back to the divine was something that came up for me when we talked last week. So I feel like that's a good kind of segue into tell me about your world, because this isn't about like not having God. It's kind of the opposite of that. It maybe isn't like really structured religion. Because I think those are the people that are going to be scared by this, is the people that are very devout churchgoers, like that religion means a certain thing to them. But this isn't about being against God. This is about finding your own divinity.
Yeah. I think what it is that I have such a close relationship with divine that when it comes to my relationship with divine, I don't ask another physical being in this realm what that should look like.
Okay.
So I don't have rules for myself or anybody else around what their connection to divine looks like.
Okay.
And that is can be really threatening if you live on a really strict doctrine of how you get to be connected to divine.
Okay.
And what makes you divine.
That makes sense.
Right? So I am very triggering. And
so that could be really scary or really freeing though.
Well, I think it's, for me, it was both.
Okay.
Because for me, what I had to do is I had to go back through my life and look at all of the times I was taught messages about how I was undeserving of love and undeserving of divine.
Okay.
And then I had to like cut those parts of myself off to survive. And when I realized that actually I am loved and beloved in all versions of me, there's lots of forgiveness and anger. There's all kinds of stuff that comes up from that.
Interesting.
It's quite a full experience.
A whole realm of emotions and
Yes.
other things.
And experiences. So yes, I can be very triggering, and like I grew up with Jesus Christ. That was my Lord. That was my God, right? And even in that and in what I was taught, there were so many oppressive stories that went with that at this stage I just ask for I ask for wisdom from inside of me instead of outside of me, and my connection with divine.
That's super interesting. I actually really like that. And that was one of the things that I felt after our conversation last week, was that I needed to tap into what I was feeling more. And I think it kind of gave me permission to feel those things instead of making those decisions with my head. So for example, one of the things I talked to you about was that I had this like dream job opportunity that came to me. And when I was approached about it, I was immediately like, yes, I'm in, because my brain told me that that was my dream job and that's what I've always wanted. And why wouldn't I say that? And then as I kind of marinated on it over the last little bit, I wasn't so sure if that was really what I wanted. And my husband's like, dang, we're kind of in a different phase of life where we're like, want more time together and we're about to be empty nesters. And are you really going to take this like high power, fly all over the country, do all of these things and be a manager and recruit and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't know. And at first it hurt my feelings that he wasn't like instantly like, yes, this is what you should do. And then I realized he's 100% right. Like I'm not in that phase. And I was so overwhelmed with the flattery of it that yes, I want to take that. And I didn't really check into the fact that what that job would entail is not actually what I want in this phase of my life.
Right.
And so listening to the words that you said to me around softening and being more intentional around how I feel things in my body, and not what you said to me was that I feel like you have been going through life white knuckled up till this point. You've been fighting hard. You've been doing all of the things, and it's time. This is your like season to let go of some of that stuff. And that really, really made an impact on me because it's exactly what I had already been feeling. Yeah. And it was almost like you gave me permission to do it, to just listen to my body and not my brain.
Yeah. Permission is the most potent word, I think, especially around the original question here, right? Which is the redemption story.
Yep.
So what you just said is like you caught that part of you that maybe has been needing what it would mean to have this dream job, and her immediate grabbing on it. And you said, okay, I'm going to see if this is still in alignment with where I want to be, with what I want out of my life. And you notice a discrepancy, right? It wasn't just the ego saying, yeah, that's what Renee's been wanting.
Right.
Your soul got to say, wait, I want to play with my husband.
Yeah. Ego is not your amigo, I heard today.
Yeah. And I think that's a little all or nothing for my liking, because I think your ego is part of what makes you this gorgeous, radiant,
fair enough,
vibrant Renee.
Thank you.
And if that's the only thing on board, if that's the only thing you're attending to, you can crash into, you can be the bull in the china shop. Yeah. You can crash into things. That's why it's like, get back to your body, your soul, your connection with divine to see where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. So you talked about you being a trigger earlier. So I want to talk about triggers a little bit because, it's a trauma response, but I think there's a negative connotation around triggers. But you said something about triggers being a portal. So not necessarily a bad thing, but maybe something to listen to. Can we talk more about that?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say that it's an ally of mine.
Okay.
And I acknowledge how hard it is when you walk through life and everything around you triggers you every second of the day, right?
Yeah.
Like it is so exhausting. It is so hard to live in that limbic kind of high chemical hormone way. It's exhausting. So it's not like I'm like, yay, you're triggered all day. Congratulations.
Right.
I'm not,
Okay.
I'm
Good
not,
clarification.
I'm not love and lighting this. Okay.
Okay.
So, and in my world, triggers are literally those beautiful moments, those crossroads in space and time where there is a version of you that experienced something similar, whether external environment or internal environment, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
You can't always make sense of it. You can't always track it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this time, at one stage in your journey, you had to cut that part off of you for safety. There was a relational rupture with self, with others, with the world, whatever.
Okay.
Triggers are those crossroads where there is a part of you saying, I am unhealed. I am unmended. I need permission to come back into the whole.
Okay.
That and that movement, when you allow that part of you that had ruptured to come back into whole and alignment, that is through love and forgiveness and permission. That is the redemption story, Renee, and that is what I understand as shadow alchemy. Okay. That is turning those lower, heavier vibrational energies that exist inside of you in all versions of you and loving them and alchemizing them into wholeness. So that you stop having to be triggered in all those ways because that part of you got to come home. It's also internal family systems work from a clinical scope.
Okay.
It's also shamanism from a spiritual scope.
Okay.
Really what I'm talking about is self-alignment and self-embodiment.
Okay. So there's so many things to unpack from
places.
that.
Yes.
I think it's a good acknowledgement that triggers are not, I was definitely not trying to make light of that because there are definitely triggers that can make life hell for you. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that. But I do think that it's important to think of them as a path to
portal.
And I think, portal
Path.
to healing.
Yeah.
And I think, you said the word forgiveness a couple of times or forgiving. And I think it's important to me anyway. I feel like forgiveness is about letting go within you. It's not necessarily about making it okay what the other person did or whoever that is. It's about reconciling it within you so that it doesn't have power over you anymore.
Yeah. What a cool distinction.
Okay.
I love what I'm hearing you say is that there is a difference between forgiveness and acceptance.
Okay. Yep. Much
Right?
better said than what I said.
No, actually yours was really beautiful how you said it, right? Because you painted a picture. Because that's the difference, right? In my world, I've experienced a lot of painful things. I have been the victim many, many, many times. And I have also been the bad guy. And I still play bad guy roles in some people's lives.
Sure.
Like the people who are scared of the words I use, like I'm their bad guy.
Sure.
And there are other versions of me that were real bad guys. Like I've had to survive some dark things and I've done some dark things to do that.
Sure.
So for me to experience worthiness, to experience divine, to be connected with divine source, I've had to forgive myself time and time and time again. And that in my world is the redemption story. The people I work with, where I come from, there's lots of addictions in our realm. I mean, tons of trauma, tons of abuse, tons of addictions. And I think the reason we stay in those cycles is because we do not allow ourselves ascension back into the light. Redemption.
I really like taking that to the place of self-forgiveness, because in my original statement I was thinking about forgiving others that have wronged us, but I like that you brought it that way, because I feel like we all have probably done things that we regret. I'm going to be bold enough to say I think probably every person on the planet has done something that they were like, you probably shouldn't have done that, or wish I'd handled that differently. Or something little, maybe it's something little, maybe it's something big that we hold against ourselves. And I think that is a big path towards healing. It's not necessarily the things where you were the victim from somebody else, but maybe the things that we've done that we genuinely need to be able to move past and feel ourselves as worthy, and know that it's okay. We gotta. There's a it the, what the past doesn't what the past was matters less than what the future is going to be. I read something once that said, if you keep looking at your over your shoulder at the past, you're looking the wrong way.
Yeah. There's already a version of you there.
Right.
She's got it. He's got it. Right.
Yep.
Like, and again, what I'm talking about is not, and I think sometimes this is where I have a hard time with some of the more structured religious things that I'm aware of, is like forgiveness kind of becomes a game. And it's like, okay, check this off 5 times, check this off 5 times, do it as much as you want. But as long as you're checking these boxes, you're forgiven. And for me, I don't know that that allows for accountability, right?
Yep.
Like I'm not saying that we shouldn't have structures and that there aren't these like moral, relational commitments we should make to each other and to community and to the earth and, you know, just to being on this rock.
Yeah.
Right. I just think that for me, if you're saying sorry and your body doesn't feel that in some way,
yeah,
like, please, I don't need that word. I need action.
yeah,
I need change. I need shifting, you know? And I think the other thing too, and I think this is part of the needing more for me in like my own healing, is because of the places that I've been in, the stories that I have this go round. Like I've seen some really dark parts of humanity, and for me to understand it and to not get lost in the victimhood of all those hard places, I have to see it on like a more energetic collective level.
Okay.
Right. So it's like if I spend too much time in like why women are so frequently raped, or, you know, why child sexual abuse happens, or, you know, why abuse in general happens, why domestic, you know, if I stay in these places too long, I can't move.
Right. Yeah.
And so I have to understand them as different aspects of human condition that offer souls different types of experiences to both embody those frequencies, those heavier frequencies, and then choose where they want to live in that.
Yeah, you're right. It's a hard, deep, dark place to stay for too long. And I feel that way too. Sometimes you just, especially with some of the costs of things that I've seen in the trainings and stuff that I've done, like there are extremely dark parts of humanity. And you wonder, like, how can people do this? Even just like the freaking scam callers that I get every day. I'm like, use your powers for good, not evil. Like, why are you trying to scam? I had a little old couple in my office just 5 minutes before I walked in here, and they were getting scam calls left and right. And it's like, why can't people just be kind? Why aren't all people good?
It's so hard to understand.
It's very hard to understand.
It's so hard to understand. And I think I just have the right balance of like moments of victimhood and moments of like being the bad guy, that I like kind of have this perfect combination to like forgive myself enough and attend to those heavier parts of me and just do differently. Right. Like for a long time, I say that I was a chaos witch.
Oh,
I still am a chaos witch, but because I was so traumatized and so reactive that when I would bump into things in my environment that didn't feel right, I would just go bonanzas, right? Or I'd have negative thoughts about people, or, you know, have judgments about people or the situation. And I wasn't intentional with all of what those energetic pathways were doing. And now I know better, right?
Yeah.
You know, in the last place I was at, I'm not going to go into too much details, but there was a lot of aggressive behaviors I received and a lot of what energetically feels like hate. And that person, I got to forgive them and forgive myself, because there was a time when they were being so dark that there was a part of me that was like, all right, I'm going back to the street in me. Like I'm going to, and I'm going to bloody your nose. That's like, I've fought some really tough people. In my life, I've fought dudes. I've fought women.
I believe it.
And my go-to is the nose first. If you bloody the nose, there you have all kinds of time to get away or do whatever else you need. You know what I mean? But that's pretty dark, right? Like that's heavy. That's kind of if I'm thinking about that, thinking about her in that way, or them in that way. Sorry, right? That's pretty dark. And then if I even take it a step further and I'm like, you know what? She's so awful to me. I hope she goes out of business. Those are hexes. That's dark magic.
Sure. You're putting that out in the universe.
If you want me to, if I'm wanting you to fail so I feel safe, that's dark magic.
Yeah.
And so like that person really helped me attend to my own chaos and clean my own pathway around protections. And, I don't really do protection spells anymore. I do expansion energy. And
what does that mean?
That means that when I walk into my space, and so because of the dark places I've been, so I'll just give you one example.
Okay.
This is so fun. Oh my gosh, there's so many. I have two good ones. One is more socially acceptable.
Okay, let's start there.
And one is more racy.
Ooh, well, you pick.
Ooh, which one should I do? Come on, what do you think?
I don't know. Let's do one on this one, and then we'll do a second episode, and you can tell us the other one.
Okay.
How about
that? Okay. So I'm just going to name what the first one was.
Okay.
The first example was around my 2-year-old daughter getting ready to die, and my intuition knowing and reading the doctors to decide what we should do. That's the first one.
Wow. Okay.
That's the socially acceptable one, right?
That's a very tough one, though, right?
It is a tough one, but here's the deal. When I have trauma response behaviors, I get all kinds of social acceptance because my daughter almost died from cancer. It's the right kind of trauma. Okay?
Interesting.
Let that roll through your body for a second, right?
Yeah.
You automatically give me all kinds of grace because I faced the hardest thing.
And
one of the hardest things. And it wasn't my fault, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's really socially acceptable.
Got it.
Okay. I walk into a room and people have empathy for me immediately. So it makes more space for my trauma responses.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about the racy one.
Okay.
Okay. So at one stage in my life, I was in my late teens, and I was using lots of drugs and hanging out with lots of guys who had guns, and to be in a room where there were 10 men, I was the only woman. There were lots of like intense drugs, right? Not like marijuana, sorry, I don't mean to be flippant about it, but
That's
like
okay.
meth and, heavier heroin and all these hard things, right? So my body, my brain had to track so many opportunities of threat and track each one of those people in such intense ways that I can feel and track my environment in deep, multidimensional ways.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
To be in those situations constantly and not have to, I was in danger, but not be in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Like my brain's working pretty hard.
Yeah.
I got some neurodivergence
Yeah.
up in here.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
And so in my world, if you've experienced a lot of complex trauma, you're doing that stuff too.
Mm.
And the person who was, was giving me so much hard time, like that person has been through a lot of trauma too.
Yeah.
And so I knew, she doesn't call herself a witch, but she's casting spells on me.
Yeah.
Right. And I can feel that and I can sense that judgment, that hate, that lack of safety. I track that for survival.
Sure.
And so for me to be able to feel that in her, to feel her fear, to feel her hate, to feel her aggression, and then to say, I'm going to stand like sturdy in myself and in my truth that this space is a space of love and expansion, then I do an expansion spell instead of a protection spell.
Okay.
So when she sends that stuff my way, if I'm not letting it in, it doesn't come in.
Yeah. Probably easier said than done.
Oh, it took me 1.5 years in that space.
Yeah.
And until finally I was like, nope, I feel pretty good. I've done my work. Like when I feel these things, I don't react as quickly, right? I don't send those dark energies, those dark spells out anymore. Like if I'm not for you, that's okay. Like I go in peace and in love, right?
Yep.
That's the frequency that I'm going to hold in my energy source around our contract.
Got it.
And now you can send whatever you want to, but if I don't participate in it anymore, it doesn't matter what you send.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to look at it. And, you know, it's, I have a teenage daughter. You've got kids. I know that it's easy for them. There is hate, there's bullying, there's all these things. And what I've always tried to teach Lacee is that people can't make you feel a certain way unless you let them.
Yeah. Outsourcing your power.
And it's easier said than done for sure. But that's the only thing that you can control. You can't control what that person is doing, but you can control what your reaction is to it, or how, if you internalize that, if that makes you feel less about yourself, or if you have that own internal power to go, you know what, it doesn't actually matter because
it's not mine.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not mine. I like that.
What you're talking about, I do a lot with myself and with my kid. Like that's not mine.
Yeah.
Right. Like I really believe that we are constantly projecting our internal world onto our external environment. And again, that's like that co-creation process we were talking about earlier. So if I bump into every person in my world and every relationship says like, I'm not safe, it's not okay, I'm not enough, like I have to look at my own thoughts to say, why is this being reinforced in all these places? And what's interesting is that the more I've been accountable and intentional with what my brain's doing and where my energy is existing, also I think known as manifestation, like guess what? I'm bumping into those areas.
Yep.
I'm feeling and experiencing new things.
Yep.
And it's like, pay attention to what you plug into. That's probably what your inside's doing.
Yeah. Pay attention to what you plug into. Yeah. I think that makes just a ton of sense. And I think, like I said, I feel like sometimes this is freeing a little bit because it brings the control back to you.
Right.
And how you feel, and that one of the things that you said to me when you did a tarot card reading for me, which I think we should talk about that in the next episode, because that was super fascinating to me. But one of the things that you said to me was that all the things in my life that I needed to change or wanted to change were all within my power.
Right. And
that's a double-edged sword, because one, that's really cool because it means I can do whatever I want. The other piece of that is that means I have no excuses.
Right. Accountability.
Right.
Accountability. And I think here's the other thing. If we are deep in our victimhood, then we don't have to be accountable for anything.
Right. It's not your fault. Somebody else did it.
Right. And I'm not saying that, like, listen, all the places I go, I get lost in my own victimhood. Like I came across it honestly. Right. I sat by my daughter's bed for a year, killing her.
Yeah.
To save her life. Right.
Yeah.
I come across it honestly.
You do.
And accountability is really potent. It doesn't mean that just because I've gone through that hard thing that I don't have to heal my own body.
Absolutely.
So I'm not reacting all over the place.
This is reminding me a lot of the episode that we just did with Tyler Bergquist, who you know as well. And
awesome.
All about
human.
Amazing human, but came through some crazy addiction and, you know, with no excuses, with no like, I didn't have anybody to help me, but just like irrational, extreme accountability around, I can do this. I'm the one that can take responsibility for this. No victim mentality around, oh, my dad did this and I had this life or whatever. It was just, what can I control? And I'm just going forward, and amazingness.
I mean, he's taking accountability for what, like, not his past story, but what his present and future story are saying. And I think for me, I've had to go to all of those victimized parts of myself to allow them the space to be victimized with my care, with my love, with my presence, so that they could come into the whole, right?
Yeah.
Like, because
it's a good way to look at it.
Because I mean, even today, like, there are so many things that happen around me that I can get really triggered and lost, you know? And there's lots of things in my physical realm right now that would easily activate and trigger my victim, my fear, my scarcity. Because it's all, in my world, it's all wrapped up in the same thing.
Got it.
And it's all a tool to oppress us. It is an oppressive tool. And so it's like, if I can just notice all of those parts of me in a day that sacrifices self, that sabotages, that, gives more than I want to, that, plays the victim. If I can attend to all those parts of me where that archetype is triggered, and then be intentional with it.
Okay.
Like, I create the very story that I live in.
Yeah. And again, that's a very cool thing, but it's also like a big accountability thing. Like it puts a lot of pressure on you to create the life that you want. But I think that's the place where we kind of have to start from. And I think that was Tyler's message as well, was like,
he's amazing.
You get to choose your life, and it might be super hard, but you get to do it. That's not anybody else's excuse. You can create anything you want out of no matter where you came from.
I mean, this is what I know. If you're suffering, if you're struggling in addiction or deep mental health struggles or scarcity or if you're struggling in those places, you're working hard.
Yeah.
That's hard work.
Good point.
Now, listen, the things that I've done in my life trying to build something other than those places that I could get lost, that's hard work too.
Yeah.
The difference is, as I say, I'm not outsourcing my energy to anybody else on earth. I say what I'm going to work hard on. Because I'm telling you, like, I have people who are really close to me who don't have a home.
Yeah.
Who don't have safe places, who, I understand those heavier places, and they work so hard and they fight so hard. And it's, it's hard to journey with somebody you love and not have ownership over what their life should look like.
Yes, that was a very big one that came up with the episode with Tyler, is around enabling and how people need to be able to do it themselves. Like, I obviously am somebody that's a giver, and I want to fix all the things, and I want to help. And that has, like, if you do it for them, they're not going to get it.
Right.
They have to know that you have the confidence in them to get beyond that and on their own. And that's where confidence comes from, is coming through the other side of hard things. And I think that is a really important thing to remember.
Yeah.
And for me, this is another thing that came up for us that you told me. So I've had low back issues for a long time. And you told me last time that I was going to keep having those back issues until I realized that I couldn't take all of the world's problems and put them on my back. And that was very much an epiphany for me, where I felt like I knew I did that. I knew that was part of my problem, but I was I'm in the season where I'm actively trying to unwind that and let go of a lot of the things. But I haven't shared this with you yet, but since you said those words to me, I have had zero back pain since then.
Yeah.
So just literally the acknowledgement of that there's something heavy that has been, because I've been doing all the things. I've been doing the PT. I've done the strength training with CT. I've been doing all the things that have helped a lot, but it was still this nagging thing that I couldn't ever get by. And I genuinely think that there was that mind-body connection there of me thinking that I can control everything else and take everybody's problems. And that's just not what we're designed to do. And I needed to let that go. So thanks.
Yay. And here's the deal, right? if it starts acting up again, look at what you're holding. Look at what you're carrying, right?
Yeah,
With these,
yeah.
they're chronic for a reason, right?
Yep.
And most of the time they're chronic because all of the messages before we didn't listen to, either because we didn't know how or, didn't have the time or whatever. And so they become chronic at a certain age.
Yeah.
And so it's like, just listen to what they're saying.
Yeah.
Right? What are we taking? What are we not attending? I've got this really intense left ankle issue. We could do a whole podcast on that. There are days that I can't even walk, right? Like I didn't get to go to my exercise today because I woke up and couldn't walk and had to ice and elevate and, rub awesome magical herbs on it. And then I walked in just fine. Anyways, but it's like, how do you take all of these somatic messages and just listen?
Yeah.
And attend to it. And again, find that balance. And not judge yourself or any past versions of yourself that had to do it differently for survival.
Well, I think that is a big one. It's funny when you talk about, your dark magic and judging other people, because you seem like the least judgy person I've ever met in my life. Like I genuinely think I could tell you anything and you'd be like, yeah.
Because I have so many of my own dark parts. I mean, honestly, I'm not joking. You could get you could get thousands of people to talk to you about all the things that I've done in this cycle that are dark. Like I cannot judge you without judging me.
Right.
I cannot.
Right.
And I cannot love you either.
Unless you love
without loving me.
I think that's a big one. And we've talked about that in other areas too. But I genuinely think like you do have to learn how to love yourself before you can genuinely build a strong relationship with anybody else.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're looking for them to give you the thing that you're missing. And they can't do it.
Outsourcing.
Yep.
And you can only be as connected to others as you are to self.
That's a great point.
And that's just the truth of it.
Well, I want to wrap this up here, and we definitely need to sit down and do another one here. I definitely want to unpack the tarot card readings more, and there's going to be several different things that come out of that. So stay tuned for that episode. We'll do that next. But one thing I know you wanted to bring up the Gathering of Mystics before we sign off here. So tell me about that.
Okay, Gathering of Mystics. So the Gathering of Mystics is a 3-day event, September 11th through the 13th. It's here in the Bozeman area. It's at the Gallatin River Hideaway, which is like this 88-acre space that is right on the Gallatin River. And it has a stream running through the whole space and a large pond and 2 large pavilions and gazebos. It's like literally one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. And I happen to be good at finding beautiful places. Basically, what we're going to do is for those 3 days, we're going to create as many containers and opportunities as possible to do exactly what we've talked about all day today, which is listen to self, which is be connected to others, connected to the earth, connected to how your soul and your body and your brain process everything around you in this physical realm. And there's enough space for you to get lost with a stream and see what the stream's saying.
I like it.
For you to, see deer and other animals. And, every time we go out there to meet as a group, we have this blue heron that just circles us, right? I mean, it is a 3-day event for anyone who knows that there's more out there and wants to have deep conversations and explore deep parts of self and the world and other worlds. It's for people who know that there's more.
I love that. So if people are interested, how do they go? How do they find out more?
Okay, so you can go to gatheringofmystics.com and you can check out what we have offered. I mean, we've gathered some of the most potent alt healing, alt mending people we know to offer what they have. So you can go to our website, check out all the workshops we're offering, check out the speakers that are going to come and share their medicine, check out the Mystics Ball on Friday.
The Mystics Ball.
Yeah. Oh,
Ooh.
yeah. Yes. And if you have questions, you can reach out to us as well, right?
Well, that was my next question. Good segue. How can people connect with you if they want to maybe work with you or if they just want to connect and chat with you?
Yeah. So a great way to get me right now is gathering, or no, that's I already gave you that one. The good one for me is Mountain Witch,
Okay.
mt@gmail. Oh my God, I haven't even been saying that very much. So now I'm like questioning. We're going to put it in the link. Can we put it in the link and
Sure,
in
we
the
can.
bio?
Absolutely.
What my email address is, because this is what I know. People are waking up, dude. And you don't have to do it alone. Like, if things are kind of a dumpster fire, don't do it alone.
Yeah. I think that's huge. And we talked about that a lot with Tyler too. Like, he had to do a lot on his own, but I think community now is one of the things that helps people stay out of addiction, helps people get through the other side. Sometimes it's just about knowing other people are going through similar things or have gone through similar things.
And honestly, sometimes it's just about being with other bodies who have done something similar and survived.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
and really the whole theme of Gathering of Mystics is like doing collective healing and mending together, right? Because there is that truth, like when two or more gather, right, their energy is exponential and can't really be tracked. And that's what we're doing. We're going to heal. We're going to go to heavy places. We're going to celebrate. We're going to be connected. And we're going to, do all kinds of things to help people mend.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lacee. I appreciate you being here. And this has been helpful for you. Please do share. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode as well. Here's to empowering each other one story at a time.